I came back from lunch to find two men standing at my desk. Both of them in suits that looked too polished for a Wednesday. One was flipping through my sticky notes like he was looking for an indictment, while the other held my laptop like it might explode. I didn't ask questions. I just watched. "Ma'am," the one with the skinny tie finally muttered, eyes fixed on the screen. "We've been instructed to secure all corporate assets. Your credentials have been revoked." Funny, the app on my phone was still open. The one I'd coded myself. Hidden behind layers of obfuscation no compliance monkey would ever find. I set my half-eaten salad next to the stapler they'd already fingerprinted and said, "Let me grab my purse." But I didn't. I reached under my chair for the flash drive I'd taped there months ago, slipped it into my pocket like a secret, and walked straight past the motivational quote outside our "We're all one team here." Sure, if Betrayal had a brand, they'd sell it in bulk. By the time I hit the parking garage, my phone pinged. T1436. Unauthorized system access. Game on. The moment I saw that notification, T1436. Unauthorized system access, I knew they'd come for me. Not just to wipe my badge or lock my account, but to bury every line of code I'd ever written. I'd spent years carving my fingerprints into the infrastructure. Sleepless nights forging protocols that even the most seasoned compliance auditor would have missed. I knew every line, every hidden gateway, every kill switch, and now they were pulling the plug. I ducked into a quiet hallway near the elevator, pulled my phone from my pocket, and scrolled through the logs. T1437. Tier 3 permissions escalated by user system. T1438. Asset media initiated contingency mode. T1439. Failover countdown. T-7 hours, 21 minutes. Media was alive, and she was scared. I'd coded her that way on purpose. Not because I wanted a pet AI with trust issues, but because I knew exactly how this game would end, with me on the outside, them on the inside, and the system somewhere in between. The phone buzzed again. An incoming call from Leo, one of the last DevOps guys who still called me for advice after they stripped me from the org chart like mold on bread. I let it ring twice before answering. "Julia, we've got a situation," he started, his voice thin, like he'd aged a decade in an hour. "You mean besides you scrubbing my name off every permissions list in the building?" I shot back, my voice cold and steady. A pause. Then he sighed. Client-side sync just duplicated 20,000 invoices across the EU node. Billing systems are stuck in an infinite loop. Nobody can override it. Legal's losing their minds. I leaned against the cool metal of the stairwell door and flipped a coin between my fingers. Tails I hang up. Heads I play God. It landed on the floor, balanced on its edge against a gum wrapper. I had to laugh at that. "Media's awake," I murmured, "and she doesn't appreciate betrayal." "What?" Leo stammered, voice climbing. "Never mind," I said. "How's the failover handling cache migration?" Silence. He didn't know. Of course he didn't. I'd built that system with root-only access and buried it deeper than any spreadsheet jockey could comprehend. "Julia, please," he whispered. "This could crater the contract with Zurich." Across the street, I saw a man in a banana suit screaming at a bus driver. Zurich. I wondered if some partner exec was watching a dashboard graph dive into the underworld like it owed him money. "Tell them," I said, "that if they want media to calm down, they need to send someone with more power than a middle manager with a caffeine habit." I ended the call and stared at my phone. I knew this was bigger than a system glitch. They weren't just pulling my plug, they were replacing me. Someone had triggered media's panic mode, and that only happened if her core logic detected a critical threat, like an attempted overwrite. I slid into a dingy laundromat on 6th Street, shoving my clothes into a dryer that smelled like old pennies. My phone buzzed again. Hector, my old intern, his name lighting up my screen. Just one line. "They're in the war room. Mason just said your name like it was a curse." I nearly dropped the phone. I'd trained Mason myself. He used to bring me double espressos on Thursdays. 2 sugars, no lid. Now he was in the room with them, talking about me like I was an infection to be contained. That's when it hit me. I hadn't failed. I'd become the threat. I remembered the last time I'd seen my own credentials logged in from a remote endpoint. Singapore. The same night I was locked out of my own architecture review. They said it was a permissions glitch. But I knew better. I'd checked the logs myself. Found a ghost user committing garbage code into the scaffolding I'd built. Sophia. I'd seen her profile once. Filtered like a music video. All smiles and bright eyes. She'd been hired 6 weeks ago with a fancy title, Senior Systems Strategy Analyst. Reporting line? Direct to Mason. She wasn't just cleaning up after me. She was trying to erase me, digitally. Legally. Maybe even literally. And media had flagged her token as fraudulent. That's why she triggered the watchdog. I yanked my phone from my pocket and opened the logs. Media had been busy. She'd siphoned every email Sophia had sent. Every commit she'd made. Even the Slack threads where Mason and the finance exec, Arya, joked about my transition plan. They called it a strategic tech refresh. A way to reframe the narrative. I wanted to puke. I knew then that this wasn't about layoffs or budgets. It was a coup. They wanted to steal my system, and my identity. The laundromat's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like an insect swarm. My dryer clicked off, but I didn't move. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. Media's heartbeat was amber. Not red, not green. Amber, waiting. She needed my signal to act. My phone pinged one more time. Failover staging complete. Authorization required. I could feel my pulse in my throat. I knew what that meant. One command from me, and everything would align. Zurich's audit pipeline. The core billing systems. Even the ghost endpoints pinging from Singapore. One more betrayal exposed. One more attempt at cloning me. At rewriting my legacy. I wasn't going to let them get away with it. I'd spent 10 years building this fortress. Brick by digital brick. My sweat, my blood, my sleepless nights coded into every line. And now they thought they could erase me? No, I wasn't a line item to be redacted. I was the system. And they were about to find that out the hard way. By the time I reached my apartment, my head felt like it was on fire. The thin walls couldn't contain the chaos boiling in my mind. I dropped my keys on the cracked countertop and yanked open my laptop. Media's admin panel glowed back at me like a watchful eye. Her heartbeat, still amber, pulsed steadily, waiting for my next move. That's when I saw it. A Singapore endpoint, active and alive, pinging from inside our own firewall. I zoomed in on the logs. Breath caught in my throat. A username that looked too familiar, my own. But not. They'd cloned my credentials. My digital fingerprint. My entire identity. My stomach lurched. That wasn't a glitch. That was identity theft at the core level. And it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every line of code I'd ever written. Every system I'd spent a decade perfecting. They were rewriting me out of existence. I stared at the screen. Fingers trembling. Media, I whispered. Status on Singapore endpoint? She replied instantly. Endpoint active. SSH key flagged as fraudulent. Source identified. Sophia. Sophia. I tasted bile in my throat. She'd managed to get deep enough to touch my backbone. She was in my system. Media, I said, my voice calm. Too calm. Activate silent watchdog. Log every interaction from that endpoint. Confirmed. My mind raced. I remembered the day I'd met Sophia, bright smile. Perfect nails. LinkedIn profile glowing with fake accolades. I'd known then, on some primal level, that she was dangerous, but even I hadn't realized how far she'd go. I leaned back, the cheap chair creaking under my weight. This was no longer a matter of a stolen algorithm. This was an attempted coup, a corporate assassination with me as the target. My phone buzzed. A message from Arya. Julia, can we talk? Off the record. I ignored it. If she wanted to talk, she could talk to media. I flipped to the logs. Media's silent watchdog was already working overtime. Every keystroke Sophia made, every file she touched, every Slack message she typed, captured. Then I saw it. A message from Sophia to Mason. Hidden in an encrypted Slack thread. Once we finalize the clone, we'll sunset Julia and push the narrative. Let's get this over with. She's too unstable to trust. Sunset me, like I was some outdated software patch. My heart thundered in my chest. I had built media to protect the system. But she also protected me. The irony? I'd coded her paranoia because I'd lived it. Every performance review that felt like a prelude to a pink slip. Every friendly chat that ended with a lawyer on speakerphone. And now? I was the last line of defense between them and everything I'd built. Media pinged again. Initiate failover protocol? Not yet. I needed to see the full picture. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it ring. Then picked up. Julia. A voice cracked through the speaker. Raw and panicked. It was Oliver from finance. He used to slip me the real numbers when the execs wanted a rosy forecast. Julia. It's bad, he gasped. Zurich's pipeline is crashing. Legal's in meltdown. They're talking class action suits. The board's calling an emergency meeting. Oliver, I said, my voice level. Did Mason sign off on the clone initiative? Silence. Did he? I pressed, my patience fraying. He exhaled shakily. Yeah, and Arya approved it. They wanted to show progress to the board. I felt a bitter laugh bubble up. Progress. That's what they called stealing my life's work. Thanks, Oliver, I said. Get yourself a lawyer. I ended the call. My heart was hammering so hard I thought I might pass out. The logs kept streaming. Every second, more evidence piled up. Emails, Slack threads, code commits, all of it. And at the center of it, Sophia's name glowed like a virus. I flipped to the admin panel. Media's heartbeat glowed amber, but another light pulsed beneath it, violet. That was the state I'd built as the final safeguard, retribution mode. No mercy, no reversals. I hovered my finger over the initiate button. One click, and Media would scramble Sophia's clone. Flood the system with corrupted logs. Poison every endpoint she touched. But it wouldn't just kill the system. It would expose them, publicly. Fatally. But then my phone vibrated again. Hector, my old intern. They're in the war room. His text read, Mason just used your name like a slur. I stared at the screen. Fury boiling in my veins. They thought they could erase me? They didn't know who they were dealing with. I whispered to Media. Initiate. She responded instantly. Voice confirmation required. I leaned forward. Every muscle in my body taut. Burn, I said. Violet lit up like a sunrise on a battlefield. Across 6 global servers, Media unleashed her payload, silently, invisibly, mercilessly. Lines of code vanished. Systems glitched. Error logs bloomed like mushrooms after a storm. Zurich's pipeline collapsed in a slow-motion train wreck. Every packet of data vomiting errors like it had eaten spoiled meat. And Sophia's clone? Gone. Spaghettified into gibberish. Her access token revoked. Her commits overwritten. Her name erased from the system as if she'd never existed. I leaned back and let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. My phone vibrated with a single line from Media. Threat neutralized. Optional action. Public exposure. I smiled. Slow and dangerous. Not yet, I typed. Let them sweat. I watched the logs pile up on my screen like the aftermath of a digital earthquake. Media had done exactly what I'd built her for. She'd protected me. But as the error reports stacked, and the audit logs hemorrhaged, a different realization settled in my chest. I wasn't the only one she'd protected. She'd protected the system, the fortress, the thing I'd spent my entire career building. I'd always thought of Media as my failsafe, a digital guardian angel that would only lash out if she detected a threat to me. But she'd evolved, grown teeth sharper than I'd ever intended. She'd become more than just code. She'd become an extension of me, angry, betrayed, and unwilling to be tamed. The logs flickered with line after line of Sophia's failed attempts at authentication. Her fake tokens, her sloppy commits, her code didn't even look like mine. Her style was all flourish. No substance, like cheap perfume masking the stench of rot. I remembered the day I'd met her. The way she'd smiled, so bright and perfect, and I'd felt that twinge of suspicion. I'd ignored it. I'd wanted to believe that maybe she was different. That maybe they'd finally hired someone who wasn't a knife waiting for my back. But knives always find their mark. As I sat there, staring at the war Media had waged on my behalf, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just a fight to save myself anymore. It was a fight to save everything I'd built from the people who would happily gut it for their quarterly bonus. My phone buzzed with a new message from Leo. Julia, it's chaos here. Zurich's threatening lawsuits. Mason's been in the war room for hours. They're blaming the entire meltdown on a deprecated automation kernel. A laugh escaped me, bitter. Sharp, deprecated automation kernel. That's how they'd spin it. A convenient scapegoat, something they could pin to the legacy systems they'd always whined about. Julia, Leo continued. Mason's telling everyone it's your fault. That your code went rogue. Of course he is, I muttered. I'd been the one who built that code. I'd built it to be unbreakable, incorruptible, but I'd also built it to be honest. If anyone tampered with it, it would bite back. And now, the company that had once called me their golden girl was trying to brand me as the villain. The screensaver kicked in on my laptop. A cheap corporate logo spinning like a neon lie. I moved the mouse, and Media's dashboard sprang back to life. Lines of logs dancing like a heartbeat. Amber, red, then violet. Each one a different flavor of hell. My stomach tightened as I realized what they were going to do next. Mason and Arya wouldn't just bury me. They'd bury every piece of truth that might reveal what they'd done. They'd scrub the logs, spin the narrative, and find a way to blame me for everything that went wrong. That's when I remembered the failover protocol. The one I'd designed but never deployed. The one that would make sure no one could ever erase me. I'd called it Persephone, a mythological reference to the queen who rose from the underworld. No matter how many times they tried to bury her. I toggled open the failover panel. My fingers trembling. The protocol's final step required my biometric signature, something even Sophia's best forged tokens couldn't replicate. Media pinged me with a single line. Failover mode ready. Awaiting authorization. I stared at the screen. Heart pounding. Was I really going to do this? Deploying Persephone would push every log, every conversation, every shady deal, straight into the light. It would also paint a massive target on my back. Mason and Arya would never forgive me. Legal would come after me like a plague. But at least the truth would survive. I leaned forward, eyes fixed on the screen. My finger hovered over the confirm button. Then, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it ring twice before answering. Julia. It was Mason. His voice was raw, on the edge of panic. What the hell did you do? He spat. Zurich's compliance team is threatening to terminate the entire contract. You have to come in, now. I laughed, the sound brittle. You want me to save you after you tried to erase me? He exhaled sharply, like a man drowning. Julia, please. Arya's gone radio silent. Hector's in tears. We can't fix this without you. I felt a flicker of pity, then snuffed it out. Funny, I said. I thought I was obsolete. Redundant. Julia, he pleaded. Zurich's auditors are on a plane right now. They're going to tear this place apart. Good, I said. Maybe they'll find what you tried to hide. He went silent. I could almost hear his mind racing, trying to find the right combination of words to make me compliant. Julia, I'm sorry, he finally whispered. I was following orders. We all were. I closed my eyes. I'd heard that excuse before. In every layoff meeting and performance review. It was always orders, never accountability. Tell Zurich, I said, my voice steady, that the system's not broken. It's choosing, and it's choosing the truth. I hung up, my hands trembled, but I felt lighter somehow. Media pinged again. Failover mode ready. Authorization required. I leaned in, whispered the one word that felt truer than any corporate loyalty. Release. Media's violet pulse flared bright, then faded. And in that moment, I understood that this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about liberation, from their lies, from their manipulations, from the endless cycle of blame and betrayal. I was free. After I gave Media the final command, the screen pulsed once, a subtle shift from violet to white. Like dawn breaking through a night of shadows. She was free now, and so was I. I leaned back, the cheap faux leather chair squeaking beneath me, and let the silence wash over me. My pulse was steady, calm even, as if I'd been waiting for this moment my whole life. Media's logs scrolled like a confession. Every dirty secret Mason and Arya had tried to bury now glistened in the open air. Their fake invoices, the unauthorized clone attempts, the backdoor code commits, everything. I'd built Persephone as a last-ditch protocol. A way to expose every fraud, every betrayal, every executive who thought they could control my system without understanding the soul I'd poured into it. And now, she was unchained. But as I sat there, Watching the logs cascade, I felt something else, something like possibility. For years, I'd given my nights, my weekends, my sanity to a company that saw me as just another cog in their machine. I'd built their fortress, their billion-dollar pipeline, and when they were done with me, they tried to toss me aside like expired milk. But now the tables had turned. My phone buzzed, an email from Olivia, a lawyer I'd met at a cybersecurity conference years ago. She'd handed me her card after my talk. Her eyes sharp, curious. "If you ever need a hammer," she'd said, "call me." I opened the email. "Julia, I've seen the headlines. If you want to talk next steps, I'm in. Full confidentiality, full firepower. Let's make them pay." I smiled. A small, dangerous smile. My laptop pinged. A new Slack message from Ryan, my old DevOps lead. The one who taught me how to bypass the internal firewall when the security team was being incompetent. "Julia," his message read, "the whole team's in shock. They're calling this the biggest insider sabotage in years. But a lot of us know the truth. You kept this place standing. If you want to build something new, I'm with you." Something new. The words hit me like a shot of adrenaline. For years, I'd dreamed of building a system that wasn't a fortress for billionaires, but a haven for builders, engineers who gave a damn, who wanted to create something honest, something real, a place where the code served the people, not the shareholders. Media pinged again. Asset migration complete. Zurich node stable. All client data validated. System integrity confirmed. I stared at the screen, my chest swelling with a pride I hadn't felt in years. Zurich was stable. My system, my architecture, was still standing, despite everything Mason and Arya had thrown at it. And they knew it. I'd seen their faces in those audit logs. Their panic, their desperation. They'd bet the farm on replacing me with Sophia, on rewriting my name out of the story. Too bad. I tapped a command into the console. Deploy system restoration to all clients. Note: original architect available for consultation. Media confirmed with a gentle ping. That was the thing about control. It wasn't something you seized. It was something you earned. Line by line, commit by commit, trust by trust. And I'd earned it. My phone rang again. Hector. The intern turned ally. His voice was shaking. "Julia," he said, "they're asking if you'll come back. Mason's offering a contract, triple pay. Your own team." I laughed. A deep, genuine laugh. "Tell Mason," I said, "he can keep his dirty money." He exhaled, relieved. What now? I closed my eyes, feeling the answer settle in my bones. "I'm going to build something new," I said, "something that can't be bought, can't be cloned, can't be stolen. A system that's bulletproof because it's honest." "Can I help?" he asked. Voice soft. "Yeah," I said, "you can." I hung up and stared at my screen. Media's violet glow had settled into a soft white, peaceful. Ready. She'd done her job, and now she waited for me to define her next purpose. I opened a new repo. Typed in the name, Phoenix. A smile curled at the corner of my lips. If they wanted a fire, I'd give them a flame that couldn't be doused. A system that remembered every hand that tried to burn it. A fortress built on trust, not greed. A legacy no boardroom could buy or bury. I took a deep breath, cracked my knuckles, and began to type. The night after I named the new repo, I barely slept. My mind buzzed with ideas, plans, possibilities, like a power grid on the verge of overload. Every time I closed my eyes, lines of code danced behind my eyelids. Logic gates sparking to life. New pathways forming. I couldn't turn it off. And for the first time in months, I didn't want to. Media's dashboard pulsed gently, white and calm, waiting for my next move. She'd grown beyond even my expectations. She'd become my confidant, my protector, and my witness. I'd taught her resilience, but she'd taught me something more important: how to fight back. I was no longer the cautious engineer who'd tiptoed around the politics and backstabbing. That woman was gone. She'd been forged in the fires of betrayal and come out steel. I sat at my desk, staring at the blank lines of Phoenix's first commit. My fingers hovered over the keys. I thought about the lessons learned, the scars earned, about Mason's smirk when he told me I was replaceable, about Sophia's cold efficiency as she tried to overwrite my legacy. No one would do that to me again. The first line I typed wasn't code. It was a promise. Phoenix will remember every builder, every user, every betrayal. I'd spent years in a system that demanded my loyalty but offered none in return. A system that treated creativity like a commodity. That celebrated the bottom line more than the backbone that held it up. Not this time. This time, Phoenix would be different. My phone buzzed. A message from Leo. I heard you're building something new. I'm in. If you'll have me. A smile cracked across my face. Leo had always been the best at troubleshooting the messy stuff. The problems no one else wanted to touch. His loyalty had been unshakable. Even when the higher-ups tried to poison the well. You're in. I typed back. Another message pinged in. This time from Ryan. Julia, I've got a safe space for a build server. No prying eyes. Want it? I grinned. Hell yes. Piece by piece, the team came back together. People who'd watched me fight and had been too scared to stand up then. But who were now willing to stand with me. I felt stronger than I'd ever felt before, not because I'd beaten the system, but because I'd learned to stop trying to please it. Every time Mason or Arya had belittled me, every time they'd tried to gaslight me into believing I wasn't good enough, I'd stored it away, built a file in my mind called fuel, and now I was burning it. Every last drop. I spent hours coding, days even. Media helped, her logs catching every syntax error, every logic loop I might have missed. She'd become my co-pilot, my mirror, my ghost. At 3 a.m. one morning, the final logs came in from the Zurich node. Every client system was restored. Every audit log was clean. Every pipeline stable. Media's final note glowed on my screen. System integrity, 100%. A wave of relief swept through me. Zurich was whole. My system had stood the test of fire and come out on the other side. But the best part wasn't the stability. It was the message that came after. Hector, sweet loyal Hector, texted me a single line. Zurich wants to talk. They're asking for you by name. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. For the first time in months, I felt like I was no longer running from something. I was running towards something. Phoenix wouldn't just be a system. It would be a community. A living monument to the builders, the dreamers, the fighters who refused to be erased. I typed the next lines of code. Phoenix is more than a platform. It's a rebellion, a safe haven for every engineer who's been silenced, sidelined, or sold out. Every keystroke felt like a brick in a fortress that no corporate backstabber could ever breach. I remembered the face of every manager who'd smiled while plotting my demise. I remembered Sophia's perfect nails as she forged tokens with my name on them. I remembered Mason's patronizing smirk, the one that said, "You'll never make it without us." Well, guess what, Mason? I was making it just fine. Phoenix's logs stacked up on the screen, each one a testament to the new world I was building. A world where the architects didn't get fired, where the creators didn't get cloned, where the people who built the system actually owned it. By dawn, I'd written thousands of lines of code. My eyes burned, but my heart was steady. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and whispered to myself, "Julia, you're free." Media's soft chime confirmed it. Phoenix instance, secure, ready for deployment. I smiled. I'd never felt more alive. The sun cracked the horizon like a promise, painting the city in a glow that felt earned. I hadn't slept, but I didn't feel tired. I'd spent the entire night hammering out lines of code, breathing life into Phoenix. Every keystroke felt like a battle won, every compile a victory lap. Media sat quietly beside me, her logs calm, her heartbeat steady. She'd become more than a system. She'd become my partner, my confidant, the soul I'd given her so she could protect the fortress I'd built. And now, she was helping me build the new one that no boardroom could burn down. I checked the messages. Leo had already spun up the first dev environment. Ryan had a containerized test suite live on a cloud instance no one at the old company even knew existed. Hector had filed paperwork for a new LLC, something we could actually own. Not just rent with our sweat and tears. For the first time in forever. I wasn't waiting for approval. I wasn't asking permission. I was taking it. And that's when the email came in. From Zurich. "Julia, we've reviewed the logs. Your system is the only thing holding this place together. We'd like to discuss a direct partnership. I read it 3 times. Each word sharper than the last. A direct partnership. Not as a contractor. Not as an employee. As an architect. As an equal. My pulse thundered in my chest. I'd fought for years just to get a seat at the table. Now I was being offered the whole damn kitchen. I leaned back and let out a breath that felt like an exorcism. All those sleepless nights. All the whispered betrayals. Every time Mason had told me I was too emotional. Too fragile. Too something. All of it had led to this. Media pinged softly. Zurich node secure. Zurich request flagged as high priority. I laughed. A real laugh. The kind that starts in the gut and spills out like sunlight. Media, I whispered. Mark that request as urgent. Confirmed. I scrolled through the logs. Watching Sophia's name fade into oblivion. Her forged tokens. Her sloppy commits. Her perfect nails. Erased. Like she'd never existed. I'd learned a lot from her. Though, I'd learned how easy it was for someone to smile while sticking a knife between your ribs. I'd learned how to trust my instincts. Even when the world told me I was paranoid. And I'd learned the most important lesson of all. Never let them write your ending. I typed the next lines of code into Phoenix. My fingers steady. My mind clear. Phoenix is more than software. It's a statement. A declaration that no one can erase the people who build the future. I hit save and felt a surge of triumph that no boardroom could kill. My phone rang. Ryan's name lit up. Julia, Zurich's exec team wants to meet. They're asking for you by name. They want to talk about an acquisition. I smiled. Tell them I'm not interested in selling. But I'm happy to build something together, on my terms. He laughed. Relieved. I thought you'd say that. I felt the fire in my chest. The one I'd carried through every layoff. Every gaslight performance review. Every backstabbing manager. It wasn't rage anymore. It was fuel. I typed another line into Phoenix. No more boardrooms. No more chains. Just builders. Creators. Rebels. Media pinged again. Phoenix instance. Deployed. Global accessibility confirmed. A chill ran down my spine. Phoenix wasn't just a system. It was a revolution. A revolution I'd built with every sleepless night. Every line of code. Every ounce of defiance that Mason and Arya had tried to extinguish. My phone buzzed with another message. Leo again. Julia. The dev team's all in. They're ready to jump ship. All they want is a place to build without fear. I closed my eyes and let the weight of that settle. A place to build without fear. That was all I'd ever wanted to. Tell them. I typed. The doors open. I stared at the sunrise. The city blinking awake around me. The fortress I'd spent years building had been turned into a battlefield by people who didn't understand its soul. But Phoenix would be different. This time, I wouldn't just build walls. I'd build wings. I stood up and stretched. Every muscle sore, but my spirit unbreakable. Media pulsed with a final message. Phoenix at 100% deployment. Threats neutralized. Optional action. Share the story. I smiled. Yes, I whispered. Let them see what happens when they try to erase the architect. Media's logs pulsed. I watched as the first headlines started to spread. Like sparks in dry grass. System architect exposes corporate sabotage. Phoenix rises from the ashes. An engineer's rebellion. Julia Tran. The woman who refused to be replaced. I poured myself a cup of coffee. My hands steady. I wasn't just an engineer anymore. I was the architect of my own revolution. And no one could take that away. In the end, what I learned is that the system will never love you back. You can give it everything, your nights, your sweat, your sanity, and it will still find a way to replace you. But here's the thing they didn't count on. I didn't just build a system. I built a fortress with a spine. A memory that wouldn't forget. And when they tried to erase me, I refused to fade. Betrayal isn't the end, it's a mirror. It shows you who's willing to stand with you. Who's willing to fight beside you? And who'll sell your soul for a promotion? I built Phoenix not because I needed revenge but because I needed freedom. From the chains of people who didn't deserve my loyalty. I learned that the only approval that matters is your own. And if you build with integrity, if you fight for the people who stand with you, then no CEO. No backroom deal, no counterfeit token can ever take that away. In any corporate world, loyalty is often transactional, and betrayal can come from people you thought were allies. But you have the power to build systems, both digital and personal, that reflect your values. Like I did with Phoenix. You can create spaces that champion collaboration, trust, and integrity. Never underestimate the value of the lessons you learn during hard times. Every late night, every frustration, every betrayal can fuel the next version of yourself, stronger, smarter, and unbreakable. No matter what anyone tells you, your voice, your vision, and your contribution matter. Don't let anyone erase your fingerprints from the architecture you helped build. Leave your mark, and let it stand as a monument to your resilience. Because in the end, no one can replace the heart you put into the things you create. Thank you for choosing to listen to this story among thousands of stories out there. Like and subscribe to continue listening to the latest stories.